Harder than a baseball, handmade, double covered with tough hide. The ball is the game. The unpredictable ball of Jai-Alai. It can be deceptive. This is what the player sees. The ball spins and swerves. But this is what the fan sees. It looks straight.
It's Assis. It's Salazar, too. It's Alberto. It's Zuleika. It's Joe. It's Aroa. It's Uriarte. It's Enrique. It's Mendy. It's Ramon. It's stars over Miami. It's Miami Jai-Alai. It's no place like home.
So that's called Dodging Death. And we'll take a look here at some of the equipment. And I'm going to have Benny demonstrate some of it to you. The Cesta itself is really a marvelous work of art. And they're all made by hand, of course, Benny. And let's take a look at it and explain some of it. First of all, it looks like about 2.5 feet long from end to tip.
Yeah, it's usually, this is a front court basket. It's smaller than the back court basket. It's 63 centimeters. You know, it's made out of a rattan type wood. Of course, like you saw in Dodging Death, it's only made in Spain and some parts of France. It's got a leather glove over here that you slip all 5 fingers into.
A lot of people don't realize that. They think, is your hand balled up like a fist or is something to grab on? But actually, it fits nice and flat.
It goes in pretty flat. You see this part down here keeps your hand strong. If you hold on to the ball for a second. Then we got what we would call here the cinta, or the tie. We use this to strap it to our wrist.
Now there's just kind of a loop here that it goes through.
Yeah, there's a little loop to keep the cinta up high at the beginning. And as you see here, you go over the top and then under. The wrist has a little leather strap right here that you go under.
And this is actually like a T-bar at the bottom that you need to wrap the cinta around.
People think that it's strapped on your hand, but it's more on your wrist. And you see you go over, you go under again twice, and then you kind of just fasten it or secure it. And then you see how it's strapped to your wrist, and it can't go anywhere. There's nowhere it can go. It can't come off, can't move. And basically that's pretty much it. The Cesta is made out of this rattan type wood, so you have to keep it moist. So between the points, you'll see the player will get a rag or just on his hand and will wet the frame of the Cesta and keep everything moist, because if it dries out and the ball tends to hit it, it could crack and ruin the Cesta.
Now these are costing in what range? About $275 to $300?
Yeah, now it depends how the peseta is in Spain. Now they're between $230 and $300.
So when you buy Cestas, how many do you buy at a time?
I usually like to order 2 a month. You know, sometimes if it's easier for the basket maker to send you 3. Obviously, that's pretty costly. It's up to $900 a month for certain players. But it's always better to have extra ones than run out, because a Cesta, it could break on the first day. And if it breaks on the first day, then you're kind of, you know, hunting around for another one similar. I can't go to somebody else's rack and take a Cesta off. It's not like a bat or a hockey stick or something.
Because they're all slightly different?
Yeah, you know, they're actually very different, because as you see here, this pocket has a certain depth. My depth may be different than somebody else's depth. Somebody might use less depth than me. Somebody might use more of a curve than me. Somebody might use less. So you know, everybody uses a different style. It's just however you like to manipulate the basket and move it, whether you need more or less depth.
Now, is it true you can ask what specifications you want, but you don't always get it exactly the way you want it?
Well, it's not made by a machine. It's made by you know, a basket maker, a human error. He could make it with a little bit more pocket or a little bit less. They're always basically similar. They're not the same. So that's where it comes into practicing, where you would go out, you would throw a couple balls before the game, and you know, you would know, well, this one's a little different than the one I'm using. You know, just because it's not good now doesn't mean it won't be good later, because maybe you'll change and you'll use one that is similar to that one in between one that's very different. You understand? So you try to use the most similar each time.
Now there's a chestnut frame surrounding the edge, and this is really the key to the basket. When that cracks or breaks, for you, the basket is pretty much useless.
Right. Well, as you see, the frame has a certain amount of flex, okay? And when you throw the ball, the Cesta will flex outward, okay? Once the Cesta cracks and anywhere on the frame, the Cesta when you throw, will flex too much, and then you lose all control of the basket. The velocity will still be the same, but when you go to throw a shot, it will not be exactly where you need it to be, and you're also putting someone else's life in danger.
Now let's look at the ball and how it fits in with the Cesta. Let's get a good shot of it here. There's really not a whole lot of margin for error here. You got even the deepest part of the basket right here, you have maybe 3/4 of an inch on each side.
Right. Well, the people see the basket and they think, well, you have a pretty big spot to catch it in. It's not true, because in order to stop the ball correctly, you have to catch the ball on the tip. The deepest you could catch it is maybe right here. Because what happens is, when you catch the ball, you cradle it to get it ready to throw. If the ball comes down in here, it's not going to be where it needs to be when you're ready to throw.
Although you do hear guys catch it somewhat time in there, and it just smacks in there. You know,
well, a lot of times you got to catch it any way you can. But the key to it is to have it as close to the tip. So when you see, if you could see here, if you could zoom out a little bit so you can see this, you want to have the ball right about here when you throw. Okay, so when you catch the ball, you have to catch it on the tip and keep it there. So it's like a rocking motion. What happens to a lot of guys is they'll catch the ball and they'll catch it down in here, and then when
around.
Yeah, when you throw the ball, it's going to go downward. In other words, if you don't have it right on the precise point when you throw it, you're going to lose a lot of accuracy.
We saw a shot, and I had it during the highlights there, that Pedroso actually caught the ball, went to throw it, and the ball shot out to the side.
Right.
What's happening in a shot like that?
Well, that's just called not stopping the ball. The key to it is stopping the ball. A lot of times the ball will move around and it'll be bouncing, and in highlight you have 3 seconds to catch, stop, and throw. So, I mean, you really don't stop. It's just kind of catch, set it up, and throw. So when the ball is not in the right spot, or it's bouncing around, or it's, you know, the ball comes, people think that the hard throws are hard to catch. Actually, the ones that are hard are easier to catch. The soft ones are the ones that will bounce out. They come slow and they just kind of pop out.
That's when the ball's really, say, like a guy barely makes a save.
Right.
You're moving up, and you got a lot of time. You also got time to look around and take your eye off the ball, basically.
Right, yeah, well, we call that taking a picture. You don't take the picture until after you catch the ball. But another thing that I want to mention is that, you know, people don't realize that the key to it is to make the ball stay in there. And we like to say, pretend it's an egg. Because when I throw you an egg, you have to cradle it to stop it. If you just leave your hand out, the egg's going to break in your hand. So I always say, when I teach kids to play, I say, don't break my egg. Don't break the egg. When I throw you the egg, don't break it. So the key is to cradle the ball. Cradle the ball. When you catch it, you got to cradle it. And then you hold it for a second, and then you can release it.
And then you see guys with kind of a little shaking motion there. That's killing the spin on the ball, right?
Well, that's, yeah, basically stopping the ball
here
and getting it set up. Like when you catch the ball, you would catch it and you would bring it right here to throw from here. You want the ball right about here when you get ready to throw. And the only way to do that is to shake it. And it's not a thing where you think about it before the ball comes. You think of, it's just a routine. It's like everything else. You do it so often that that's the way, that's just the way that's your style of play. A lot of people, like you see, some people hold the ball a little longer, and they really get it where they want.
Right.
Is it illegal? If you tend to go over that 3rd second. If it's your style, they'll let it go.
Right. Let's take a look at the ball a little bit closer. You zoom right in on that, Caesar. Looks very much like a baseball as far as the stitching, but the ball actually can be lethal because the stitches kind of stick up a little bit, and with the ball spinning tremendously, it's almost like a whirling saw or something.
Well, when you see, like you saw in Dodging Death, the ball is made by hand also. It's not like a baseball, it's made by a machine. Every ball is the same. These balls tend to maybe have a lump here or there, or the thread may not be, they press it. After they sew it, because this is 2 layers of goat skin, the bottom goat skin is always there. The top layer gets replaced after the ball's been thrown a lot. And when they sew, you see that the stitches, they stick up a little bit. They put it in a press, and they press it down as much as they can. Obviously, it's not going to go all the way in, so you're always going to have a little bit of thread sticking up, which, it could affect the bounce, it could affect the spin, it could just affect the whole ball the way it flies through the air.
Now, this one's marked with a P, and I guess that means that's a practice ball,
Yeah,
right?
These are practice balls. We have maybe 1 or 2 different type of balls. Every fronton has a different way of marking their balls. Obviously, P means practice. Most of our balls would have a dot on it with 2 little dots on it, which means it's a game ball. And some of them are a big dot with just 1 dot, which means it's a game ball made by a different ball maker.
I see. And there's always different balls available in every point. I guess 3 balls in each point.
Yeah, in each game.
A faster ball.
Right.
And actually, when the ball goes off the wall several times, the core heats up, it becomes faster and more lively.
Right. Well, what they do is they take 1 ball and they'll put put it out in the practice. If there's not a fastball for the game, they'll throw out a game ball during the practice to warm it up. That will be the fastball. Then they'll have a ball that was used maybe the day before that hasn't been on the court, which is used, but it's cold. So you'll have the fastball, you'll have the second ball, and then you'll have the new ball, which is just like this one, brand new, hasn't been out on the court, and it's a lot deader. It takes a couple points for it to warm up. And usually when you play a guy like maybe a Restores or a lot against me, a lot of times they take a new ball out because you take away from the player's game. You take away his strength. If you take a fast ball and he receives the serves and puts you in a bad position, it's very, very likely to win that point.
So it's kind of different. You would think, like when you have a brand new baseball or a softball, it's going to be nice and lively until it gets whacked around and soft.
Right.
But it's exactly the opposite in highlight, because the more you use it, the hotter it gets, the quicker it gets.
Right. Well, but you also got to think that after maybe one game or possibly 2 games, the ball has to be redone. It has to be taken out. It has to be restitched. And then after they restitch it, they sit in a closet for 2 days to dry and to get ready for a game again.
Okay, real quickly, we'll take a look at the helmet as well. Something they never used. We saw in the Dodging Death that the helmet was not used. Players out there in dangerous. The ball is rock hard, and no protection on the helmet there.
No, well, the helmet, is basically similar to a football helmet. The inside is like a hard foam, and the outside is like a hard fiberglass. The Jai-Alai helmets is, like I said, it's very vague. No company really wants to take the risk of making a helmet for Jai-Alai because no helmet's really been tested for Jai-Alai. They have hockey helmets. They have similar type helmets. So we basically have to go out and make our own helmets. So this helmet here was cut from a football helmet, and we put the straps on the side. We have a couple of players that make the helmets and sell it to the other players. We have to sign a release saying that we are bringing our own helmets and we're responsible for any injuries that happen due to the helmet.
Okay, obviously became a big part of the sport back in 1966 when Orbea, one of the top players, was actually hit in the head while playing in Spain. Really kind of ended his career, but from then on all the players wore the helmets. And you think face guards, these clear plastic face guards, are something the players might wear in the future?
I don't think so. Jai-Alai is a game where the ball pretty much stays low, and if it hits you, like I have a lot of scars on my ankles and my shins and my knees, and the ball usually hits you in the lower extremity. It could come off the back wall if you turn around. The ball hits the back wall. It could get you. It's dangerous, but I can't remember the last time I've been hit in the helmet.
Okay, well, there's an idea of some of the equipment, very unique, and maybe a tough reason why it's not, why there's not more cheaper equipment out there, and that the kids are able to get into the sport earlier because it is so expensive.
That's the Jai-Alai Cesta. I mean, you could probably buy a used Jai-Alai Cesta between $75 and $100 from a player, but again, you're getting a Cesta that's been used for 3 or 4 weeks, and it's got wear and tear. The glove has already been sweaty. I mean, a new Cesta for a kid, it's pretty expensive to go out and buy a Cesta for $250. Unless you're going to use it like we do all the time.
Exactly. Okay, well, there's a look at some of the equipment. We're going to take this break here on Miami Highlights. When we come back, we hope to talk with Pedroso. If not, we'll show you a little live action from some of the games this afternoon. We'll take your phone calls. We'll get that number up for you as well. But let's take a break here on the program. We'll be back here on Miami Highlights.
Miami.